Black History Month, and we're going to learn about our trig ratios. Alright, so when we're thinking about our trig ratios, we're centered around right triangles. So it's important that we remember the parts of our right triangle, right? We remember that the parts of the right triangle that make up the 90-degree angle are called the legs. And this long part that's opposite the right angle is called the what?
Hypotenuse.
Hypotenuse. It's the hypotenuse. Alright? And so, when we're thinking about our trig ratios, everything is going to be centered around those angles, not the right triangle, not the right angle. So it'll be this angle and this angle is where we're going to make our decisions. This is how we identify what is what. Alright? So there is a mnemonic that's really not a mnemonic. Well, it kind of is a mnemonic that helps us remember it. I kind of gave you guys, I told you guys about it, but I didn't tell you guys about it last week. And that mnemonic is SOHCAHTOA. Say it with me. SOHCAHTOA. Right, that's how you spell it, right? This S stands for the word sine, right? You see it in your calculator. The C stands for cosine, and the T stands for tangent, right? Abbreviated is SIN, COS, and TAN, right? A lot of students say sin, right? But it's sine, right? SIN stands for sine, COS stands for cosine, and this stands for tangent, right? Now, these letters O and H, A and H, and O and A stand for what happens to sine, what happens when we have sine, cosine, or tangent, right? And so, for sine, you have OH. O stands for opposite. And H stands for hypotenuse, right? So, sine represents opposite over hypotenuse. That is sine. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, right? That's the O. And tan represents opposite over adjacent, okay? Opposite what? Hypotenuse what? Adjacent what? Hypotenuse what? Opposite adjacent what? Right? We don't know what it is, right? What you're referring to is the opposite side of the angle, not the 90-degree angle. The adjacent side to the angle are in the hypotenuse, right? So if we look at this right triangle, right? And we want to know, we want to figure out all of this, the sine and cosine and tangent of anything. If we have, this represents beta, right? This angle is beta. Well, typically, let's make it theta. We're rocking theta. Theta. Did y'all watch that movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Alright, so we got theta here, right? So, when you talk about opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse, you're thinking about the opposite side to this angle, right? The opposite side to this angle would be this place. Adjacent means right next to. So the side that is adjacent to theta is going to be here. And the hypotenuse is always the hypotenuse, right? Right there. Okay? Now, if you want to know sine, cosine, and tangent, sine, cosine, tangent of this angle is relative to this space here. So, opposite of theta would be him. Adjacent to theta is there, and hypotenuse is there, right? So if we were to make a ratio, let's give opposite side a measurement. Give me a number.
12.
12.
3.
Give me one for adjacent.
3.
3. Give me one for hypotenuse.
7.
It's got to be bigger than 12.
14.
17. I heard 17 first.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So if we were to write the sine of theta, sine of theta, we would say opposite, which is what? What's the opposite measure? 12 over the hypotenuse, which is what?
17.
17, right? Cosine of theta would be adjacent, which is what?
3.
3 over what?
17.
17. And tangent of theta would be opposite over adjacent, which would be what?
12.
12 over
3.
3. Right.
3.
These are your ratios. This is your sine, cosine, and tangent of theta. Okay? That's your sine, cosine, tangent of theta. Okay? Alright, so let's look at another example just like that. I'll keep that there. Alright, let's move over here. Let's make another triangle. Womp, womp, womp. S, R, T. Right? And we're going to make S, R, 18. We'll make RT 80, and we'll make this one 82. Right? So, give me, what would be the tangent of S? Tangent of angle S. Alright? Raven, what would be tangent of angle S?
Wait. I'm confused. Okay, I was gonna say 12 over 3.
Oh,
Wait, wrong one.
Yeah, it would be 12 over 3, but we're talking about this one right here, up here on the board.
80 over 18.
80 over 18. Tangent of S. Right? Opposite, 80 over adjacent. 80 over 18. How many still see that? What would be tangent? What would be tangent of T? What would be tangent of T? Natalie. Say it again. No. You got to do the opposite of this angle. So opposite is a side. That's a legitimate side, not the angle. $18 over what? Yeah, 18 over 80. Very good. Very good. Okay. What if I said, give me the sine of angle S? What would the sine of angle S be?
15 over 8.
Sine angle S. Yeah, Justin. 80 over 82. Okay? Cool. Now, you got these measurements, right? We have this. You get the ratios. Now, I ask you to pull out your calculator, so simplify this for me. What's 80 over 18? 80 divided by 18.
4.4 repeated.
4.4 repeated? Alright, what about 18 over 80?
0.225.
0.225. Good. And then 80 over 82?
0.97.
0.97. Right? So sine of S would be 0.97. Tangent of T would be 0.225. Tangent of S would be 4.4 repeated. Okay? You good so far? Mm-hmm. Now, we can also use the trig ratios to solve for a missing side. Right? So, for instance, if we have this same triangle here, remember our spaces, right? Well, you got this now, right? You got the SOHCAHTOA. All right, so what if we had the same triangle, we had this triangle here, and we said this measure was 32 degrees, so this is our focal point, right? If this is 32 degrees, I think we don't have names for it. This is 32 degrees, and this is 11, and this is X, all right? What trig ratio would you use to solve for X? What do we have here? Do we have opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse? What do we have? We have opposite and we have adjacent. What's the trig ratio for opposite and adjacent? What's the trig identity? Tangent, right? So this is tangent. Opposite and adjacent is tangent. Right? So we would put it like this. Tangent of what measurement? Yes, tangent of 32 equals opposite 11 over adjacent x. Okay? Now it's time to go all the way back to algebra to solve for x.
I can do that.
You can do that? So tell me what I'm supposed to do first.
No, I could go back to algebra. I can't do that.
Alright, so the first thing you want to do is first thing you want to do is you want to find your trig. Find your trig, right? Find your trig identity, which we did. Right? We found a trig identity. It was tangent. All right. Second thing you want to do is you want to write your ratio. Now, when you write your ratio, you got to write both sides. You got to write the tangent of whatever the angle is equals the ratio itself, right? Then what you want to do is you want to solve for x, right? In solving for x, you got to isolate the x the same way we always do. Okay, you with me, Jordan? All right. So in this case, so there's going to be two trends. There's going to be a situation where the x is going to be at the top, which is much simpler because all you got to do is multiply over and then do the work. Then you got the situation where you got to multiply where the x is at the bottom. All right. So for A, when the x is at the bottom, trig and x switch. Trig and x switch. Right. So that's for section 8. Right. So x is at the bottom here. So the math for this would be I will multiply x from both sides. Right. So it just means x times tan 32 equals 11. And then I would divide tan 32 to both sides. So when I multiply x to both sides, then I end up with that. And then I divide both sides by tan 32. So I get x equals 11 over tangent 32. That is where the trig and the x switch. So they switch places. We good with that? Now from here, we just do the math, right? So it's going to be 11 divided by the tangent of 32. So if you have what's that, a 30, put tan 32 in parentheses. So you'll do 11, you'll write 11 divided by tangent 32. What do you get?
17.6.
17.6. Good. And so then x equals 17.6.
I got a picture. Why mine's popping up as a negative?
Why is it popping up as a negative? It's probably because of the setting on your calculator. All right. Make sure it's in. Make sure that it's in degrees. We'll deal with that in a second. Okay. Now let's do another one. Let's do another one right fast. All right. What if you got that? We got that. We got that. So this is an actual situation. Let's see. We have. You got a 70 degree. You have a 70 degree right here. 70 degrees. This is 40 inches. And this is x. What's our trig ratio again? We got, what do we have here? X is what? Opposite. What's 40?
Adjacent.
It's still adjacent, right? All right. So what's the trig identity? Tangent, right? Tangent, right? So it'll be tangent of 70 equals opposite over adjacent. All right? So we wrote the ratio. We found the identity, which is tangent. We wrote the ratio, right? And now we're going to solve for x. In order to solve for x here, this is the B situation when the x is at the top. X at the top, you just you multiply the side and trig, right? You multiply the side and the trig. So basically, we got to get x by itself, Jordan. So we multiply both sides by 40. So you get 40 times tangent 70 equals x. Yeah, it's times now, because you got to multiply 40 to both sides. That's the algebra, right? Multiply 40 to both sides. All right, so you do the math now. You put it in your calculator. So it'd be 40 times tangent 70. What do you get?
109.9.
109.9 equals x. Everybody go with that?
Mm-hmm.
What if we were trying to find y? What we were trying to find y? What would be the trig identity to find y?
Adjacent.
So we got adjacent here, and we got the hypotenuse. What's adjacent over hypotenuse? Cosine, right? So it'd be the same. It'd be the same situation. So it'd be, instead of tan 70, it'd be cosine 70 equals adjacent, which is 40, over hypotenuse, which is y. Okay? Is the x or the variable at the top or the bottom?
The bottom.
The bottom. So since it's at the bottom, the trig and the variable switch. So you're going to end up having y equals 40 over cosine 70. Everybody get that part? Right? Since it's at the bottom, these switch places.
I got 116.
You got what now?
116.95.
116.95?
Yep.
Everybody else, anybody else get that? Yeah?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. So, let's see. Alright. So, this is your introduction to trig ratios. SOHCAHTOA. Right? SOHCAHTOA. SOHCAHTOA. S, sine, opposite over hypotenuse. C, cosine, adjacent over hypotenuse. T, tangent, opposite over adjacent. Alright? And that's it. So now you know what SOHCAHTOA means. Right? Any questions? How we feel? Yes, sir.
What was 4B on like the little left?
4b, x, so x at top, multiply side by the trig, side and trig, right? So the side and whatever the trig identity was. So cosine of 70, right? Or this, in this case, that was like tan 70, okay? So yeah, again, if the x is at the bottom, you got the trig and the x switch. If the x is at the top, you just multiply that side by the trig identity. So sine and the angle, or cosine and the angle, tangent and the angle. Okay? Good. If you have any questions, comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Mr. Do the Math, out.